Happy New Year and welcome to the Badass Reset Club. I am your host, Heather Yancey, and today I'm sharing with you what I would do to start the new year if I were you. Let's talk about where we're going to start this year and talk about how we can approach health and fitness in a way that actually works for our own bodies and for our own lives. We're all so individual and unique. So, we're going to break down no crash diets, no unrealistic workout plans. We're just going to have practical, sustainable strategies to honor where we are in life and to help us to feel our best. So, I, for many years, like most people, set these intentions, these big goals for my year. And now I think that setting the bar high is a good idea because we can rise to that. We can rise up to that occasion. But when we set things too high, we typically quit on ourselves. It's why we find gyms empty in March. It's why people fall off the wagon at the end of February. It's too lofty. It's too big. It's like saying I'm starting January 1, I'm eating 800 calories and I'm going to work out for 4 hours a day. That's bullshit. And we all know it. So we're just going to say no to that. We're going to do the real stuff that works. And today I'm going to help you break down how I would start. So I want you to note too that if you do have specific goals of fat loss or adding muscle mass or body recomposition, I am working on another podcast, so stay tuned. That's going to come out on how exactly to get to those goals. Today is where would I start? If I needed to hit the reset, where would I start? And I'm going to break it down with some applicable things that you can take into action right away. I'm going to start with the foundation. I'm going to give you fitness. I'm going to give you nutrition, and I'm going to give you some recovery practices to start with. So, starting off with building the right foundation. We want to first acknowledge that the majority of the listeners to this podcast are midlife women. We're 40 and up. And we know that with our age demographic comes some pretty unique challenges, but with that comes this beautiful wisdom and experience. So we can start shape shifting our mindsets right now. We can start thinking more along the lines of how can we add to things to make things better instead of what do we need to take away? How do we need to sacrifice? Because that mindset is just let it go. It's done. It's not going to serve us. We're going to focus on sustainable changes over time, knowing that there's not a quick fix. I know that social media at this time of year is inundated with bikini pictures, and it's going to be stories of how this woman did this in, one day. It's so far-fetched. It's so not realistic. And anything that is a quick fix like that is just not sustainable. So yes, we can get rid of bloating and inflammation pretty quick, but we can't change our whole body composition as fast as we would like. And therefore, we should shift the mindset on that. We're going to emphasize that health looks different on every single person. So you cannot compare yourself to anybody else. You have to go with your starting point right now and start to build upon that. And then we're going to start with a healthy check in. So, a healthy check in, and we'll touch base on this a little bit through as we go through the podcast, but a healthy check in is really understanding you at this point in time. So get a journal. It does not have to be fancy. It can be a cute little badass journal. It can be a piece of paper. It can be a notebook. It can be whatever. Get a journal and start tracking things. Healthy check ins for you. You are going to want to start keeping track of these things so that you can come back to them, so that you can see how you're progressing, and so that you know, because I'm going to give you all sorts of things that you're going to have to reference back to that little healthy check in. So, get a notebook, doesn't have to be fancy. The first thing that I want you to think about this year is getting a health assessment. And that means like get your ducks in a row for the year. Don't put this off. Don't wait. Be proactive with your health. Get things set up. What do you need? Do you need your mammogram? Do you need a colonoscopy? Colonoscopies are now recommended for women 45 and up. So do you need a annual physical? Are you ready for a pap smear? Are you ready for the dentist? Like get those things in line and then you get to forget about them. It's taking care of you when this age is taking care of so many people. We've got younger people we're taking care of. We've got older people we're taking care of. It's a lot. Prioritize your health. Amen. Okay. So schedule these things, get the screening set up. While you're setting up your screenings, consider getting a screening with a pelvic floor PT. We've talked a lot about it on this program. We've had a couple pelvic floor PTs come in and speak to us about the importance. Remember that the pelvic floor is not, you don't just make an appointment with that PT if you're leaking when you're jumping up and down. It is a it is such an integral part of our muscles. Like if you think about the pelvic floor, it is holding up a ton of muscle. And understanding the function of your pelvic floor and how it relates to your back health and our overall health is really an important thing. Now, I know that pelvic floor physical therapy has gotten really important. Um, it's gotten a lot of publicity, and it's kind of hard to get into one now. So I know that I've been waiting months. So don't put it off, schedule something and get a bone density scan. Start looking at that. I use Body Spec. Body Spec is in multiple states. It might not be in your state, but look it up. There's probably something comparable. I go quarterly for my bone density, for my muscle mass. It gives me a really good data point to track over the year. And for me personally, like I'm on this mission to gain muscle mass. And so I want to make sure that that's being done or that I'm getting as close to the target as possible. And I can only do that by getting a DEXA scan. They're not expensive. Mine cost me about $45 each quarter. So worth it to me to have that information. And plus, it gives me so much more too. You also want to keep tabs on your hormonal health. So if you are still having your cycle, you want to be recording how often you're getting it, how heavy it is. If you're no longer cycling, still understanding what's going on with you hormonally is really important. I work with a naturopath. Working with a functional practitioner is going to be really helpful in this state. And maybe going down the avenue of investigating HRT if you're a candidate for that, see how that can help you. These are all really good things to add into your health assessments. And then document your starting point. So if I were you on January 1, starting out, I would get that notebook and I would put in measurements. I would do my hips, my waist, my chest, my shoulders, thighs, arms. Get your measurements taken. All you need is a measuring tape. They are very inexpensive. And track your energy levels. Track your libido, track your sleep quality. Start recording this stuff down. It takes you just a few minutes a day to reflect on your day. If you have your journal by your bed, reflect on your day, put down any pertinent information that you think is important. You can track how your performance was in working out, whether you felt like you had a lot of power or were you fizzling that day. These things are important to track over time. And then you want to know any existing conditions or limitations. So, midlife women, we see frozen shoulder, we see hips and knees a lot. And the joints, they are working with the musculoskeletal syndrome of menopause. Even if you're in your 40s, you can still be having these joint issues, and they're not fun and they're not pretty, but document what's happening. Think in your mind that motion is lotion. So you don't want to be overdoing things, but you want to be moving. We have to keep these joints moving, even when we're having flare ups of problems. They've got to stay moving. You can work with a PT or somebody to help you understand the mobility and how to work through that, but keeping movement going. But note down any of the physical limitations. Okay, so that's the first thing. You want to get the health assessment done and you want to have it documented. I can't tell you how many times I myself, before I would document things, would go to the doctor and they'd say, well, when did this start? When did you start noticing this? When, and I'd have no idea. So write stuff down. It will help. Let's talk about building your fitness framework. So we've got to start with this bottom piece of building the framework. We want to start with daily movement, and these are the basics. So walking 15 to 20 minutes every day. Once you have that nailed, you progress. You build up to 30 to 45 minutes a day. Once you have that nailed, you can progress depending on time. Movement is so important, and the basic movements. Walking is so important. As much as you can walk, do it. And then you want to add in a basic stretching routine. So if you are someone sitting for a job, add in some stretching. Have a resistance band where you can raise it up and above and open up your chest and stretch through your back and roll your shoulders back. You want to include stretching as much as possible. If you like watching a Netflix show at night, get on the floor and get stretching, get some mobility work going. You want to be keeping your fascia pliable. You want to be moving the muscles. You want to be getting that stretch. And then think about focusing on improving your posture. I am such a posture enthusiast right now. As a symmetry practitioner, I am all about getting proper posture and making sure that we're aligned, because when we are aligned physically, it goes along with aligning us in every other part of our life. When we can stand tall, when we feel good in our bodies, it just is so beautiful. So, focusing on improving your posture daily. I'm going to give you one little tip to do every single day. If you are someone who stands on the balls of your feet, which like almost all of us are, and try this, like stand up right now if you're not driving, and you can stand up right now and notice where you're standing. Are you more forward leaning towards the balls of your feet, or are you pulled back? Most of us start to lean forward because of the nature of our jobs, because of sitting, because of typing, texting, our shoulders slumping forward. Stand up tall, take the weight to the back of the feet, pull the chin in towards your chest, and feel how different that feels. And as much as you can during the day, go to that stance when you are standing. Find yourself in a standing position, pull back, and see how that changes things. So that's one little tip to help you get your posture improved. Okay, that's your basics. Now let's talk about the strength training. We know that strength training is one of the non negotiables as we age. I wish that every single woman could be strength training to some degree. I'm talking about teenagers, I'm talking about 20s and 30s. I am talking about my mother in her 80s. Every single woman should be doing some form of strength training. Where do you start if you're not currently strength training? You start with body weight exercises. You start with doing push ups against a wall or against a counter. You start doing squats. You can do very basic movements and still start to gain strength 2 to 3 times a week. You do not have to do a 60-minute workout. It can be short. And as a matter of fact, if you're new to it, you're going to get newbie gains in a short amount of time. If you are experienced, then you're going to go a little bit heavier with the weights. If you're experienced, you're going to go heavier. It's all relative to where your starting point is. If you're brand new, body weight, move to light weights. You can use resistance bands. Whatever you're coming into 2 to 3 times a week, short increments, trying to get 4 to 8 sets of muscle groups. Now that's where it gets very overwhelming for new people. Do not be overwhelmed. Do what you can do. Think about your muscle groups. Think about your legs. Think about your glutes. Think about your chest. Think about your back. What can you do to move and strengthen those muscles? When we look at sets of things, you do want to make sure that you're getting the 4 to 8 sets of the muscle groups a week. So if you don't have a lot of time, just get a couple of the muscle groups in and then repeat that when you can come back the next time. It does not have to be complicated. And again, there's lots of things that you can do to get help for this. I will address that. But where to start, that's where. You want to just make sure that you're targeting the major muscle groups. So if you are newer to weightlifting, don't come in and worry about your biceps and your triceps. Those are your glam muscles, those are accessories. Think about the major muscles that are going to help you to do things in your functional life, like pick things up off the floor, turn and rotate to put things up in the cabinets. These are functional movements that need strong, big muscle groups. And then again, we want to target those concerns for midlife. So if you are working through a frozen shoulder or you've got a hip that's bugging you, these are not the end all be all deal breakers. There are so many things that we can do to still build strength in the body, even if you have an injury or you've got something going on that's painful. Again, if we shift the mindset to, I am capable of doing so much more than I am limited, because you are going to be so much better off. And if you can start the year off thinking a little bit more positive, it is like contagious. It's going to keep snowballing, and it's going to continue with you all year long. This is how habits form. We do something, we continue to do it over and over and over, and all of a sudden you are that person who strength trains 2 to 3 times a week. You don't even have to think about it. It just comes. Okay. So on top of your strength training, we need to add in the cardio. Now, here's something to think about. You are recommended to have 150 minutes per week of cardiovascular training. Now that can look like a steady state cardio where you're out, jogging, and you're not pushing yourself incredibly uncomfortably. You could be in a zone 2 if you're familiar with zone training. It can be all the way to a high zone breathless. Now, where those 150 minutes come into play is neither of those extremes. You want it to be a combination. So a nice mix. You want to have your sit or hit training, your sprint interval training, or your high intensity interval training mixed in with more of that steady state, so that we're covering all the bases. Now let's talk about the sit and the hit. Your sit training is a midlife absolute go to. It's something that we all should embrace. Sit is hard and it's short. Sit is the most uncomfortable you can push to, coming back and recovering and doing that 2 to 10 times. Me personally, I am like a 3 to 4 interval girl. I can do it 3 to 4 times and then I'm done. I'm spent. So sit training, get a 5 minute warm up. You can run, you can bike, an aerodyne bike. Oh, assault bike, so hard. You can do it on the rower. You can do it on a stair machine. You can do a regular bike. You just have to get yourself uncomfortable. So 5 minutes of a warm up, go 10 seconds. Sometimes it takes women a little bit longer to push to that really high zone, and then give yourself like 2, 3 minutes of total recovery. So if I'm sprinting, I am going to sprint. It takes me 10 to 20 seconds on a full sprint to feel it. And then I am doing a combination of a jog walk for 2 to 3 minutes. I am watching my heart rate come all the way back down. I need it to come all the way back down so that I can push right back up to that. I do that a few times. I cool down and I'm out. And in 20 minutes, I've hit that workout and I'm getting just as much benefit. The data shows that you're getting just as much benefit as more like a 45-minute hit. When you look at why wouldn't I do the 45-minute hit versus a 20-minute sit? Because midlife women need a little bit more recovery. And if you're getting the same benefit, but you can recover more with the 20 minutes, we've got to change the mentality that more is better, because more in this case is not better for a midlife person, especially if you're a midlife person who's dealing with more elevated cortisol things and you're having a hard time getting rid of stubborn belly fat and things like that. You need to get absolutely uncomfortable and then recover and be done. And then you've got room to do it again. So, how often should you do something like a sit or a hit? 1 to 2 times a week. And the rest of it should be more of that steady state, zone 2 up into zone 3. And that's it. That's your cardio for 150 minutes a week. Figure out how you can get that in. So 2 to 3 times of your strength training, get your cardio in, get the basic movements in with your stretching and your walking. And this might sound like a lot to women, but once you figure out how to schedule all this and how to make it happen and how to schedule it for yourself, you're going to be golden. On top of the cardio and the strength training, think about balance exercises. How often are you working your balance? You can incorporate that into your strength training. You can incorporate that into your stretching. You can do that, while you're at work. Stand on one leg for a bit, change it out. Work on how you can get balance training in. Pelvic floor workouts. I know that we all have heard of a Kegel, but there are things that we can do with our pelvic floor to train those muscles to help set us up for success as we age. If you are completely unfamiliar, YouTube it, Google it, go look up the Vagina Coaches program, the Buff Muff method. Awesome name. I had her on the podcast. I'll link in the show notes what podcast number what that was. I can't remember off the top of my head. But her method is fantastic for not just helping for issues like leakage issues or prolapse issues, but to help strengthen those muscles. Um, for me, I have hypertonic pelvic floor, meaning it's too tight, it presses on the muscles. So I have to do exercises to relax the pelvic floor. She has all of that. So that is an extremely valuable thing to look into. Consider getting into yoga 1 to 2 times a week. That's going to help you with so much. It's going to help keep you flexible. It's going to help you with your mobility. It's going to help you with getting into the parasympathetic state to help calm your stress by working through breath work. Like all of these things with the movement, fall in love with learning how to have a variety of movements, and you are going to be so good. Okay, and the last part of building the framework for fitness is mix the indoor with outdoor. So don't just stay inside the gym. Even if it's ugly outside, get outside for some of your movement. Get outside. Go invest in a pair of, I live in the Pacific Northwest. It rains miserably in the winter. I invested in a pair of waterproof pants and a good waterproof coat. People here make fun of people with umbrellas. They call them tourists. So I don't know. Bust out an umbrella if you need to. If you're in the snow, great. That's a great workout to go tromping through the snow. Get outside, get the light in your eyes, vary up the workouts and the movement that you do between inside and outside. That's going to help you with your circadian rhythm. It's going to help you with your sleep, and it's going to help you with your mood to just be outside and getting that fresh air. Okay, now let's talk about nutrition. So let's say we're feeling bloated. Maybe we ate a little bit more in the last, who knows, 6 weeks. Consider this. When you are looking for fat loss, it's predominantly coming from your nutrition. But if you're someone who has been having more excess calories lately and maybe more sugar and you're just not feeling well, think about it this way. You can use that excess to fuel workouts. Yeah. Some of my very best workouts have happened the day after Thanksgiving and the day after Christmas. I've had excess carbohydrates and I am ready to use those. Now, if you've been building up that for 6 weeks, it's going to take more than just a workout to help use that as fuel for your workouts. But consider this, you are going to start off focusing on nutrients, nutrient dense foods. So if we can look at quality over restriction, it's going to help you to shift the focus from feeling guilty and feeling frustrated into, all right, how am I adding the most nutrient dense foods to my lineup today? You're going to start with your protein. I know that you've heard this. I know you've heard me talk about it. You're increasing your protein intake is going to help you tenfold. It's going to help stabilize your blood sugar, help you with evening out your energy so you're not having the energy dips throughout the day. It's going to fight off cravings. It is going to help you to change your body composition. We need more protein as we age because we're not absorbing all the essential amino acids the same. So sometimes we find that middle-aged women have to eat even more than the recommendation. It is recommended that you go zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per ideal body weight. If you are someone who's currently getting 60 to 80 grams of protein a day, you're not getting enough. You need more, but you need to start slowly. So start building up to a threshold of, say, 80 grams consistently, then go to 100, and then keep bumping to your ideal weight, zero point 0.8 to 1.0. So let's say your ideal body weight is 140 pounds. That means 140 grams of protein, which is a lot for women. It's a lot, especially if you're nowhere near doing that now or you're not thinking that way. So start off. Do you get 80 grams? Great. How's your digestion? Are you constipated? Do you feel okay? Then bump it up. Sometimes you have to switch around your protein sources. Most people do great on animal-based proteins. Some people might find that they don't digest that the same. So that again is where your journal comes into play. How do you feel? And that's what you go off of to start. Also, in conjunction with the protein is your fiber. So women need to get 25 grams of fiber per day. That is the bare minimum. That's like the bottom. That is your C. You want to get to an A. You want to start building up your fiber. I would say almost every woman that I start working with is somewhere around 15, maybe 20 grams of fiber a day. They're not getting to the 25. And they're just not thinking that way. It's not something that they look at, it's not something that they understand. But this is where we really have to make changes. And I know I'm focusing mostly on women. Men, if you're listening to this, you need at least 35 grams of fiber. Increasing the fiber is going to help with a lot. It's going to help with your gut health, and it's going to help with motility, and it's going to help keep you feeling like you're energized. If you are someone who's having a hard time getting your protein and your fiber intake, start early. Start with your breakfast. Start focusing on getting as much as you can out of the gates so that you're not playing catch up all day. So that might look like some protein source for breakfast, aiming maybe for 30 to 40 grams, and add in the fiber with that. So for me, I get fiber real easy in the morning. I will have some Greek yogurt. And on top of that, I put berries. Sometimes they're seasonal, sometimes they're frozen, and I let them thaw out a little bit. And then I use some chia seeds or some basil seeds, which are very high in fiber. And that is just an easy go to. So if you can have 3 to 4 easy go to breakfasts that you know work for you, put that in your rotation for the month of January. That's where you're going to start. Start out from the morning, add in as much nutrient dense food as you can, get your protein and your fiber up, and then you want to make sure that you're getting adequate vitamin D. Vitamin D is the only supplement that the Menopause Society, which is formerly known as the North American Menopause Society, it's the only supplement that they say that women across the board need. And I work with my doctor for how much vitamin D she wants me to take, which is a lot. She wants me at 10,000 IUs. I'm not saying you take that, but work with somebody who understands. I get my blood work done, so I know. We don't have to get blood work done to know that half of the people in winter don't get, and probably more than half don't get enough vitamin D. So something to consider. Look at food sources and get your fiber, your protein, and consider adding vitamin D in. And then staying well hydrated. So having enough water is it's a tough thing during the winter because we're just not thinking about it when it's cold. And then again, midlife women lose our thirst cues. So we're not thinking that we need to hydrate as much. It's why I keep a 40-ounce bottle with me at all times. I drink a couple of these a day, and then I mix in, I've got coffee and tea. So I know I'm getting a little bit more water than that. Aim for at least half your body weight in ounces of water. If you do these things and you start to think about adding in more nutrient dense whole foods, less processed foods, like, the more that you add in, the less you're craving things from a box. The less you're craving chips and crackers and things like that with the more real food that you add in. So shifting the mindset to more nutrient dense will help you to take away the restrictive mindset. Think about too, how can you set yourself up for success with your nutrition? Practice batch meal planning. Like I am not a big meal planner, but if I'm cooking a meal, I'm going to make a little bit extra so that I can put some either in a Ziploc bag and put it in the freezer. If it's like today, made chili, I made a huge batch of chili with extra beans and lots of good stuff for fiber in there. That is going in a Ziploc and it's going in the freezer until I'm in a pinch. Or I'm going to have some in containers for lunch or dinner another day. Thinking about batch cooking for these busy weeks. So look at your calendar, what's coming up, what's going to be really busy in January. Is the first week pretty quiet? Then think about foods that you're going to cook that are high in protein and fiber. But when you're busy, batch cook it up. And then think about again having those rotations of easy go to, especially in the morning, so that you can get the the handle on getting the protein and the fiber in. And then here's the other one, practice mindful eating. So, this is what I want you to do. I want you to stop eating lunch in front of your laptop or scrolling on your phone. I want you to not have something distracting you from what you're eating. I want you to savor the food, think about the food that you're eating, put your fork down or your spoon down in between bites, chew your food, and really taste it. And that is going to be a a real saver for most people. Most people eat super quick when they're distracted by something on a screen. You don't even realize you finished your food and your brain hasn't caught up with your stomach yet. And you're thinking, I'm still hungry. And then you're looking for more. Stop the distractions and eat mindfully. It's so much better for your digestion too. Okay. And then have healthy snacks on hand. So try not to get yourself in a hole somewhere where you don't have anything that makes you ravenous. Have some healthy go tos, maybe some oranges, some apples, some nuts, some jerky, something that's going to be good and healthy in a pinch. All right. The last piece of this, like putting it all together, have sustainable systems. Do you remember going to the Container Store at the mall? I remember walking in for the first time to the Container Store and just thinking, like, I had no idea that you could get uber organized. I had no idea like containers could be this exciting. It is exciting when you've got these sustainable systems set up, when you're like organized and you've got your workouts programmed into your schedule and you've got like meals planned or thought about and you're ready to go, laying out your clothes the night before so you're ready to get up and work out. I know we've heard that one before, but if you go back, I know my mom used to have me lay out my clothes before school. It sets you up for success because it makes you come out of your brain. You're not thinking about those things anymore. Once you've gotten it set up, it just helps you to relax. And then it really makes you move and act on those things. So if you got up in the morning, your alarm went off, you got up and you looked at your workout clothes sitting there, you're not going to go, now I'll do it tomorrow. You're going to put those workout clothes on and you're going to make it happen. And then think about, again, putting your workouts into your calendar. My calendar is scheduled out first thing in the morning is for me. I'm taking care of me. And yes, it's really early, but that's when I know I have to do it. And I'll share with you, people have said to me before, well, that's just because this is your job. This is what you do. You like getting up and doing that. No, there are some days I absolutely do not feel like getting up and doing it, but I do it because that is who I am. And I am that way because I have scheduled these things and made them habits. And when you practice something over and over and over, that is who you become. So there is no motivation here. This is all just building the habits, and the habits create the character. The character is who you start to become, who you emulate, who you are. And that is just when people perceive me, they're like, that's someone who gets up and does their workout every day and then they have their protein and that's it's easy for them. It's not easy. It's just who I am. Okay. Think about prepping meals. If you are not a weekend prepper, that's okay. At least set yourself up for success by having the foods shopped for, washed, ready to go in the fridge so that you are able to make those good, healthy choices. And then track your progress beyond the scale. So it's okay if you are someone who likes to look at the scale, but I would much rather see measurements. I would like to see over time the waist ratio going down. That is the true indicator for fat loss, if that's your goal. But look at measurements. Look at compared to your goals. Are you looking to grow things? Are you looking to have fat loss? Are you looking to maintain? Measurements will tell you. And then think about pictures. Pictures are very telling of body transformation or where we are with goals. Because if you take a picture of your front, your side, and your back, you're going to see changes over time that you will not see in the mirror. I promise you this. I've worked with so many women who did not feel like anything changed, or maybe they were going on the scale and the scale stayed the same, but yet their pictures show differently. And I've worked with women who the scale has gone up and their bodies have changed to very lean and strong bodies that they had no idea that could be them. So the scale, the only reason that I use a scale is because I use a smart scale that isn't quite as smart as my DEXA, but it's a smart scale that has given me data points over time. So I can go back and see trends and I can record those trends in my journal. I can kind of keep tabs on things. And so that's the only reason that I get on a scale. I do not let that number change my mood, change my alignment with who I am and how I feel, I absolutely refuse, because I can take my scale weight 3 times a day and I'll get different numbers all 3 times. And you have to just not even pay attention to that. We go off of how we feel, how we're performing, how our energy is, all of those things, how we're sleeping. So that's the scale. And then looping into this, you have to think about recovery too. So a lot of women who are my age, who are late 40s, early 50s, early 60s even, we never had built-in recoveries. We just never did. We did the same exact things every single day of every month of every year, and it's just what we did. We're so smart now. Take advantage of all of the research that's been done, especially for midlife women, and allow yourself adequate recovery time. So what does that mean? You need to recover for like 48 hours between muscle groups. You want to fully recover. So that muscle is breaking down and then it's repairing and it's regrowing. You want to give yourself space for that to happen. You can't go in and keep working the same muscle groups and expect change. You also need recovery time from your cardio activities. So we need that stimulus, and then we need the recovery, and we need to have the variety of workouts so that we're still moving but allowing the body to recover smart. If you are open to it, use something that tracks the recovery for a little bit so that you can understand. You can wear an Aura ring or a Whoop watch, maybe your Garmin. You can use Apple Health. You can use things to help you understand what's going on with your health and your recovery. So I can look at my HRV and my recovery rate from my Whoop strap, and that can help me plan how hard I'm going to work that day, or maybe if I'm going to give myself a little bit more recovery time. I will say this, nothing is infallible. Like, take that with a grain of salt. Again, these are points over time. This is still a piece of equipment. You have to go off of how your gut feels and how you truly know how you are. If I woke up and my device told me that I was in the red and I needed to recover, but I felt great and full of energy, I'm going to ignore that red and I'm going to go for it. If I woke up and I was having a green day, which means like, go get it, Heather, and I was feeling exhausted and tired and like my body was hurting, I'm going to pull back. I'm going to honor how I feel first and foremost. And I want you to as well. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that you don't take an active recovery day just because you feel great every day. I still need you to take one day a week for active recovery. And that means go do a gentle hike, go do a swim, go do something that's gentle and movement. Just don't crush it every day. Okay. Um, Thinking about adding in a deload week is going to be helpful too. So for my clients, I program them with week number 1 for their workouts is going to be something that's they're getting used to the movements, the program. Every day is going to be a little bit different. Week number 2, they're going to go back in and they're going to revisit that program, but they're going to add a few more reps, or they're going to add some slower tempos, or maybe they're going to try to shift and go a little bit heavier. Week number 3 typically is the deload. That means they're taking out a workout, or they're doing less reps, or they're not working as hard. And then week number 4 is go get it. It is game time. Bring it. Let's go. And that typically works in conjunction with hormones. So sometimes things need to be tweaked depending on energy levels, but allow yourself the opportunity to have a deload week where you do a little bit less and feel how you feel the week after. It's pretty awesome. And then, yeah, include your recovery days, an active recovery day. We're not sitting on the couch all day. We're still moving, but you got to think about it in terms of honoring how you feel. And then you progress gradually. So we want to think about this like, we are not looking for perfection this year. We are looking for progression. It's all about the progress. Start where you are, use what you have, build on that, build on the life that fits you, build on the body that you are in right now. And think about like, let's get support on that. Where can you find support? Can you start a group this month of friends who share 2 recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? And between, the group, you've got a couple weeks covered of meals? Can you get professional guidance on where to start with your workouts? Can you hire a trainer, hire a coach, go work with a small group? Can you find those buddies who have, really near and dear to your heart alignment values, like want to do the things that you want to do and plan things with them, or join a community? We have the Menopause Strength Society. Inside that, there are workouts that you can do. There's also guest speakers. We have monthly challenges. The group is there for support. Things are there for you. What can you do this year to add to your health? How can you improve it? And this is a great jumping in point. I've given you the fitness, I've given you the nutrition, I've talked about the recovery and the mindset. It's so important. Let's shift this from having it be that's it, I'm putting the lockdown, things are getting restricted. Let's shift it to just this more. It's abundance mindset. It's what can I add to my health, and watch yourself flourish. 2025 is going to be amazing when you open up to that. I can't wait to see what's in store for you. I have a lot of journeys ahead of me. 2024 was an incredible year full of very, very highs, some lows, of course, because life is not, it is not constantly on the peak. You got your valleys too. But I had every single month a challenge that I rose to, that I pushed myself to, and I allowed myself grace. And if I could repeat 2024, I would do it over and over and over. I hope that 2025 feels like that for you. I hope it's exciting, and I can't wait to see all the things that you're going to do. I want you to stay you. I want you to stay badass and come back for more. We'll see you next time on the Badass Reset Club.